Film adaptations of video game franchises are always tricky at the box office. A lot of them do not turn out very well, but this one comes with two A-list stars in tow, Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, and it had a $44 million opening weekend. But how is it as a movie? Let's talk about Uncharted. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new film Uncharted. This is in theaters right now. It's doing pretty big business at the box office, and it's a theater exclusive, so you can head on out to the multiplex. Another one that was sort of pushed out for a little while by COVID. It was originally supposed to be released in December of 2020, so now we're getting it a little over a year later. And before I get into the specifics of this movie, I want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video, and if you like what you're seeing, you can feel free to subscribe down below. I'd love to have you aboard there, and maybe even click that notification bell. I do many movie and TV reviews every week, so you can get all those delivered right to your notifications. So let's talk about this movie. Now, first of all, I am not much of a gamer. I do the Wii stuff. I have an Oculus for virtual reality, but in terms of like PlayStation, Xbox, these sorts of games, I am a little bit in the weeds about that. I will admit that up front. So after watching this movie, I did read a couple of articles about like what they got right from the video games, how close it is to the story of the games, etc. Because I want to be, sort of informed here when I'm reviewing it. But at the end of the day, I do sort of have to review the movie for just what it is. But I do think a video game movie comes with that question of, are the people who play the game going to enjoy this movie? I think it's an important question because for me, it's something like, oh, well, if it's a TV show to movie adaptation and I loved the TV show, how do I feel about the movie? Or if it's a biopic about a musician and I know about their lives, how does it translate to the big screen? So I do think it's an important question. It doesn't entirely inform my review, but I think it is sort of good to know certain things. So in this, Tom Holland stars as Nathan Drake, who is, I guess, the lead of the video game as well. And then Mark Wahlberg plays his mentor, Victor Sullivan, sort of stepping in for Nathan's brother, Sam, who we meet as a young boy in one of the opening scenes. And we find out a little bit what happened to him. In the game, I understand it's a little bit more of a father-son sort of dynamic, but whatever. I think the sort of brotherly figure thing did work here. Mark Wahlberg obviously looks great for his age. I do think he's probably a good 25 plus years older than Tom Holland, but he looks damn good, of course, so it's believable in that regard. Antonio Banderas supports here as well, and there's a few other names in the movie that I don't really know that well. Sophia Ali, Victor Sullivan, Tati Gabrielle, not really familiar with them, but in any event, the theme of the movie is that they are on this race to find some treasure, specifically from gold. And they have to, some gold, I should say, and they have to utilize their wits and discover some different puzzles and map read and all of this to find this treasure. And of course, there are many obstacles along the way. It all is sort of about the Magellan stuff way back when. I am not positive if the video game specifically goes to the Magellan Well, but that's what they're using here. But so this movie is quite reminiscent of some of the movies we've been getting lately. It really all harkens back to Indiana Jones, and there's even an indie reference in this movie, so it kind of makes sense. But from what I understand, the game basically does take a lot of the elements of that Indiana Jones type of story and make it playable. So, okay, it's sort of expected, but here's one of my issues is that we've gotten a lot of these movies lately. The Rock was featured in two of them, Jungle Cruise and Red Notice. Now, I know a lot of people hated on Red Notice. If you watched my review of that, I did not hate it. I thought it was, kind of average. I think maybe it was a C+ or something like that. But The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot have amazing chemistry. Here, I think the chemistry is all right. I don't think it's, exceptionally great. But I think that the two sort of key elements that this might have above Red Notice, and probably not Jungle Cruise, but Jungle Cruise was still in that same vein. I think I gave that a B minus. But the puzzle aspect of this, I think, is a little bit more interesting, and I think there are some pretty solid action sequences. We saw a couple of them in the trailer, but a lot of jumping out of airplanes and stuff like that are engaging on the big screen for sure. Now, Red Notice, we didn't have that option. That was Netflix exclusive. Jungle Cruise, you could have seen on the big screen, or if you paid $30 for the Disney Plus premium access, you could watch it on your TV at home. But this has to be experienced on the big screen because it's the only option for right now. And I do think that is slightly to its benefit because I think some of those sequences are pretty good. In terms of the villain here, I mean, it's the most stock villain we can think of, nothing original whatsoever. And I think that's almost to be expected at this point with this type of movie. But I will say, for all of the sort of, yes, the great action sequences and some interesting puzzles as they go, the chemistry between the two leads is not always that great. And then as well, the villain just super, super generic. It is a little bit long too. Now, those other movies I mentioned, I think, are longer than but this is close to 2 hours, and you do feel that length by the last 10 or 15 minutes. I do think Tom Holland, though, gives probably his best non-Spider-Man performance here. He is still sort of a Peter Parker type, because he's this kid who's sort of out of his element and, taking on these bad guys, and he doesn't quite know what he's doing. So it's sort of in that vein, but a lot of the other movies I've seen him in where he is trying to be a little more mature, and it's not really quite working yet. And I don't know if that's because he still looks so young or because we're used to him being in high school for Spider-Man. I'm not sure. But movies like Cherry and Chaos Walking, and the current war, it just none of those really did it for me. I don't think I gave a positive grade to any of them. So this one I think skates by a little bit better, but I think I still prefer both Jungle Cruise and Red Notice to this film. However, this is where my grade may be slightly skewed by the video game factor. Apparently, according to the two articles I read, this is one of the better video game adaptations in terms of translating the story and characters for the big screen. So I do have to give it a little bit of a slight bump for that because I do think that enthusiasts of the game are going to enjoy the movie that much more for that reason. A lot of these video game adaptations sort of fail in taking the source material and blowing it up for, a 2-hour film. But apparently this one is kind of right on the money in that regard. It's still not a great grade. I think all three of these movies I'm mentioning, the two Rock ones and Uncharted, are all sort of in that same element. None of them are particularly terrible, but none of them, I think, are worth necessarily writing home about either. So I'm going to leave Uncharted with a C+. All right, well, that will do it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Dan Reviews It.